How I taught my grandmother to read. Here is another heartwarming and inspiring story about how a 12-year-old teaches her 62-year-old uneducated grandmother to read and write. It is very true. Learning has no age bar. When I was a girl of about 12, I used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with my grandparents. The transport system at that time was not as good as it is today. So the morning newspaper came only in the afternoon, while the weekly magazine Karmavira arrived every Wednesday. All of us would wait eagerly for the bus which would bring us our reading material. Who would wait more eagerly than my grandmother, Krishtaka, whom I called Avva, which means mother in Kannada. My grandmother, never having gone to school, was unable to read or write, but this magazine was one of the greatest interest to her. This was because every Wednesday she would make me read to her the episodes of a story called Kashi Yatre, which used to be carried in it. During that time, she would forget all her household duties and listen with rapt attention. After hearing what happened next in the story, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard and discuss with her eager listeners what she had heard. Once I went to attend a wedding with my cousins in another village. We were having such a marvelous time, eating and playing the entire day, that I had ended up staying there for a whole week instead of 2 days as originally planned. Upon my return, I found my dear Avva in tears, surprised, for I had never seen her break down even in the worst of situations. I asked her anxiously,
"What is it, Avva? Why are you crying?"
She nodded but made no reply at that moment. That night, we were sleeping on the open terrace of the house when my grandmother came and sat next to me. Her loving hands caressed my forehead. Eyes full of sleep and sweet dreams, I asked,
"Avva, what is troubling you? Please speak your heart out to me."
Having lost my mother at a young age and my father too busy to give me attention, I had no one to look after and guide me. I never went to school since in those days it was not considered essential for girls to study. I was married off early. After the children came, I had no time. When I had grandchildren, I was happy to cook for them and take care of them. I have from time to time regretted not getting any education.
She stopped speaking and fell silent. I was unable to understand why my 62-year-old Avva was telling me, a 12-year-old, the story of her life in the dead of night with everyone else dead to the world. But the overwhelming love in my heart for my dear Avva made me realize that she was troubled. Tears were spelling out of her beautiful eyes onto her plump cheeks. I leaned over and hugged her. She looked heartbroken.
"Avva, please don't cry."
I pleaded, my own eyes filling up with tears for her.
"Can I be of any help to you?"
Wiping her tears with the end of her sari, she said,
While you were away, the Karmavira arrived as usual. I opened the magazine and saw the pictures accompanying the story of Kashi Yatre. It was frustrating not being able to read the story. The embarrassment of asking somebody else to read it to me was too much. I have never felt so dependent and helpless. Of what use is all the wealth that we have when it cannot give me independence? I have decided to learn the Kannada alphabet from tomorrow.
At 62, you want to learn the alphabet. Your hair is grey. Your hands are wrinkled. You can't see without your spectacles in the kitchen.
Childishly, I was making fun of her, but she just smiled.
One can overcome any obstacle if one is determined to, because for learning There is no age bar. I will learn. Sudha, will you teach me? I will work very hard.
I smiled and nodded, making her very happy. The next day onwards, I started my tuition. Ava proved to be a wonderful student. I would guide her to read. She would repeat, write, and recite. Little did I know then that one day I would become a teacher and teach hundreds of students over the years. The Dasera festival came. I secretly bought Kashi Yatre, which had been published as a novel by that time. I gave my first gift to my first student. She opened it immediately and read the title,
Kashi Yatre by Triveni.
along with the publisher's name. Her joy knew no bounds. Now, she would never have to depend on anyone else to read to her. I knew then that my student had passed with flying colors.